It's Tiger time, and your wide receiver one might just be there for it. Today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Yes, Tiger time is a Bengals reference. It is officially Bengals week, and we are going through everything getting ready for that. We got some great news today. This is Chris Clark over there from Chiefs Corner. You can check this work out over on Chiefs Corner, specifically about the quarterback stats. We're going to talk about that coming up later in the show with Mahomes and his fast start so far. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. You can see my work, including my takeaway 6-pack for the front office that just went up, where I covered the whole league on NFL33.com. And then my version and my staff's version of all of the Chiefs takes at RGR Football. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell. Thanks for listening to us first today. Your first listen is Locked On Chiefs. Your second listen should be Locked On X. You have a lot of choices here on the NFL Locked On Network. We are your team for free every single day here and on Spotify and an Apple Podcast. Anywhere you can get a show for free, you can get us 5 days a week plus. If you want that much more, and we do drop bonus episodes and those kind of things, our everyday listeners are called locos, and they hang out on the text line at 816-357-8781. So we will discuss Mahomes and his fast start and the stats revolving around it, because that's something that Chris tracks every single year. Then before that, we're going to get to Suamataia and Kingsley and just how specifically rare his performance and his treatment are right now in this town. But we start with the news of the day. Andy Reid came out, talked to the media, and let us know, number one, no new injuries from the ballgame. Perfect news in my book, and honestly something that I was a little bit trepidatious about. We can get into that in a second. The biggest news is that Hollywood Brown may be able, potentially, to get involved in practice this week, maybe even towards the game against the Bengals. I'm not going to hold my breath because I don't want him to rush it. Personally, with that particular injury, I think, although he is thicker than he was when he was drafted, it's not something that a smaller, slighter wide receiver can recover from as easily as a guy who's beefed up like Tyreek is, even though the timeline has been very similar. So if he doesn't play, I'm not gonna cry, but it's a serious possibility that Hollywood Brown is good to go. What do you read of it?
I think it's a great sign. I think that you look at this and what it's going to mean for this team and for this offense. And we're going to talk about Mahomes here a little bit later. And I think Brown plays a huge factor into how this offense is going to go, obviously, being probably wide receiver one, although I'm not so sure he is. Rashee Rice might be that guy with the game we saw from him the other nights. But I think Hollywood's going to bring a lot of value to this team. You look at what it's going to mean. He's going to give you another guy that can take the top off the defense other than Xavier Worthy. And one of the other things that I saw that really impressed me looking back at the stats, Worthy was out there. The top three snap receivers, so to speak, Travis Kelce at just over 85%, I believe. Rashee Rice was right around 85%. And Worthy was at 75% of the passing snaps. I actually tracked that specifically to know, okay, I think they had 33 passing snaps, and Worthy was out there for 75% of those. That is huge. If you go back and look, Rashee Rice was out there for 25%. So it's going to change with Hollywood coming. I would say all that. It's going to change with Hollywood coming back a little bit, obviously, but it shows how far Worthy is compared to where Rice was, at least offensively from the Chiefs' perspective. And you add Worthy into the mix of Rice you add Hollywood into the mix of Worthy and Rice and Kelce, and I think that you're going to have a lot of fun on this offense. And I think that putting up points is not going to be an issue.
You hit on one point that was my initial reaction too, is at that workload. And yes, Rashee Rice was the target monster, was the yardage monster, and so clearly a focus, right? But Worthy was the explosive monster. Right? Yep. You have to have different roles here. You're going to have different aspects of the game. For him to be at that level, to be on the field that much and have that much going through his head of the playbook, that's been a limitation in the past for a lot of wide receivers. For him to be at that point in week one, despite, remember, sitting out of OTAs, a significant volume of snaps that usually happen for a rookie, he was not able to attain. He had to go mental reps. That's a huge step forward. And I think something that can lead towards not just more overall production, but a guy that's there in the postseason when everything gets ramped up again and is able to contribute much as Rashee Rice was last year, maybe even more.
Well, and it's funny because we're going to talk another, in the next segment about another Chiefs rookie in Suamataia that is exceeding expectations in a lot of ways because the Chiefs don't use their rookies quite like they have in years. I mean, you talk about wide receivers, you make a fantastic point. Rashee Rice, you go back 25% of snaps last year against Detroit and go back and look at who their wide receivers were. It's not like they had good wide receivers at the time. We're talking 25%, and he still should have probably been wide receiver 2 or 3 in that game. But they just didn't trust him to be where he needed to be and be in the offense involved as early as he is. You add Brown to this whole mix, and it just completely changes things. And the thing that I'm the most excited about is, and I'm sure Brown was probably there on the sideline, or he's watching the film with Worthy afterwards. But I'm excited for him to be on the field with Worthy and to be on the sideline with Worthy specifically, not to take anything away from the coaches, but to have a guy that is essentially the same skill set to an extent, be able to see exactly what you're seeing and be able to tell you, okay, this is what I saw. This is maybe what you need to tweak the next route for this specific type of play or this scenario. That will change how quickly Worthy can get acclimated and really help this offense. And that's kind of funny to say because he scored 2 touchdowns on Thursday night's game. And Brown is going to have a big impact himself as a wide receiver, not to mention the coaching factor.
Right. How much more acclimating does he really have to do? Well, there's room to improve. Both of them are on the field. Suamataia in a very specific way, especially when you look at the rest of the draft class. Let's get to that coming up next.
Men, when we leave the house, it's phone, wallet, keys. How's my hair look? But if you're experiencing hair loss, you may not be so confident when you step outside your door. It's time to get that confidence back and restore your health with Hims. Hims provides access to a large range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch. Hims makes treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. They offer personalized, chewable, oral, spray, and serum treatment options so you can find what works best for you. The process is simple and 100% online. Just answer a few questions, and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment is sent directly to your door. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedonnfl. That's hims.com/lockedonnfl for your personalized hair loss treatment options. hims.com/lockedonnfl. Results vary based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Make sure that you're checking out everything you need on the new Locked On NFL in the morning and in the evening. You're going to get Tyler giving you the AM roundup, and you're going to get Tony breaking it all down for you in the afternoon. 2 times a day on Locked On NFL here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. And it's not every single day because Kingsley Suamatiya has had one day, one game, one day. But there was something really remarkable about how that day went. We're going to get to the stats. Chris is going to break that down for you, but it's just the fact the confidence level is higher than anybody else, maybe even higher than some veterans they've had in that role or the right tackle role in the last few years, because Andy basically said, listen, Sua, just go take care of business. We're not going to help you out that much. Did you get a count?
I think I saw that. I didn't get a count personally, but I think I saw somewhere that somebody was reporting he got help twice in the entire game. There were 33 pass snaps. Obviously, it's more than passing. I don't have the exact snap number in front of me, but if you get help twice in 33 pass snaps by itself, that's pretty impressive. Kansas City is usually chipping and helping their left tackle. Donovan Smith got a lot of help in the past couple of years. Orlando Brown got help in the last couple of years. To throw Suamataia out there by himself says a world to me. Now, the other thing that this could be, and this is something that we're going to have to watch, and the reason I want to talk about this today, because I do think it applies to Cincinnati, is you have to wonder, is it a question of, okay, we weren't really scared of David Ojabo and the Ravens pass rush, which I kind of get. Ojabo isn't a known quantity. He's a young guy, and that makes sense from a certain perspective. But you're going to be going up against Trey Hendrickson now, who had a fantastic game against the Patriots. I think 40% of his pass rush snaps were led to pressure. So he is going to be somebody that is definitely going to test him. And I do think that that is going to be something to watch, whether or not Andy Reid gives him a lot of help or not.
I agree. And officially, he was marked giving up a sack. Kingsley was by the official scores. When you break it down and you look at the film, there's an argument that can be made there. PFN did not. They did credit him with a hit, but not a sack. And I'm going to be talking about this all week, folks. You're going to see this a lot. But this is what the view is going to look like. That's the advantage that Kingsley Suamataia has, because that's going to be in Trey Hendrickson's face, because his arm length is not good enough to get back at Kingsley. I think that's something physically that they're going to rely on. I think they need to chip him more. I agree, and give him a little bit more help. But I think setting him up against what was a real pass rush, but not an elite one, will help him, and his physical tools will fill in the rest.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think arm length is really going to help him. He has to get his punch. And if he gets his punch and he gets his hands on him, I think they're going to be a lot better off this coming week than they were against Baltimore. And you're right. You look back if you go back and watch the snap that he's getting that hit on, I believe, it's the same snap that Joe Thuney got blown back into Mahomes. And that is, I think, the reason that they didn't give it to Suamataia, is because if Thuney holds his guy in 2 or 3 yards from the line of scrimmage, Mahomes can step up and probably deliver a throw and not get the throw off. Versus because Suamataia had the guy out at 8-9 yards deep and was going to be able to push him around, but Mahomes was 10 yards deep, so didn't work out on that specific snap. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how he's able to grow this year, and this is one of the things and why I was so excited to see that they were going to start him, is because this gives you the ability to watch him grow this season, and not only grow this season, but grow for the next several years. You're starting it young, and yes, you are going to see growing pains. You saw some of those against the Ravens. I'm sure you're going to see some of those against the Bengals, but he has to learn, and the only way he's going to learn and learn quickly is to play a lot. And that is, I think, what Andy's going to do. And the fact that they were willing to throw him out there on an island in his first NFL start says a ton to me.
It certainly does. And when you take a look at what the draft class did this week, really was quite different in that his efficiency versus the rest of his draft class was right up there with the best of them, including guys like Joe Alt and Talise Fuaga, who did get a lot of good things done. Don't get me wrong. But in terms of being able to project that, not just this draft class, but last year's as well, he's still in the top 5 of guys that played a full game and actually participated behind the likes of Darnell Wright and DeJuan Jones, Fuaga, and Kingsley are your top 4 in pass rush pass block efficiency. So not just are they trusted for a rookie, but he's holding his own against some of the better players that proved they could make the leap to the NFL and perform. And now he's amongst them. So that tells you that not only does Andy have the confidence in him, but we should too, that he's going to be able to make the transition and become an NFL left tackle, not just for a game or a season, but for a very, very long time.
Yeah. And that's exciting for Kansas City because you have him for 4 years. You could say you easily have him for 5 with the franchise tag, because I'm sure that's what they'd use if they can't get him signed to a long-term deal. And that is a cheap left tackle for the next 5 years. And that is exactly what you need to be with Mahomes, as long as he can play, as long as he continues to evolve from what we saw this week and getting better, which I fully expect. You have to remember, he's 21 years old. He's got size. He's got the size, but he's got to put a little bit more weight on to work on, being able to anchor as well as he needs to. But there is so much room for growth when you start looking at what he can do in his game. We talked about it after the game against the Ravens. There's one thing that you can't teach, and this is the exact same reason I think the Chiefs kept Driscoll. Go watch Suamataia on that end around for Worthy and on the touchdown. He was out in front of Worthy. He got downfield, 20 yards downfield, and was helping make the final blocks to get Worthy into the end zone. There are not a lot of tackles that can do that on a consistent basis. And I guarantee you, the last couple of years that we've had left tackles, Donovan Smith, Orlando Brown, those guys could not do that. They can't move like that.
He's a rare athlete for a man his size, as is the man throwing the passes behind him. He's super rare as well, so much so that even this start is a little bit out of the ordinary. What is Patrick Mahomes doing to just take himself to the next level? That's coming up next. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Now they have a chance for you to do exactly what I do every single week. They have something a little bit different for you right now. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet just $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube base plan account, all you got to do is watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. No problem. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to download America's #1 sportsbook. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. I'm looking forward to the long season. It usually takes Patrick Mahomes a little bit to get going. I thought that in terms of placement, I thought he was markedly better than he has been in season openers of the past in terms of not sailing balls, not making huge, insane, problematic reads or trying to do too much. He did push just a little bit. He is Patrick Mahomes. We got to get used to that. But what do the stats tell you, and what do you take away from the quarterback performance?
10.4 yards per attempt. That was one of his 10 best games when it comes to yards per attempt. The insane thing to me is not only is it 10.4 yards per attempt, which means he's throwing further down the field, generally speaking. Obviously, Yak is going to change that a little bit, but the other part of it is he had a completion percentage over 70%. And if you go back and look at those 10 games, that is his third worst completion percentage in those 10 games. He's been over that in 7 of the other games. How crazy is that? When you look at this, and when you look at what he is going to be doing in this offense, I alluded to it with the Hollywood Brown discussion earlier. You add another wide receiver to this offense compared to what they already had, I think you're going to see an even better Mahomes. And to give you a historical perspective, last year, his yards per attempt for the season was 7.01. He didn't have a single game in 2023 that was over the 10.4 yards per attempt. He only had one game that got to 10 yards. And the crazy thing to me is if you go back and look at 2022, his yards per attempt was 8. His second lowest was 2021, which would have been with Tyreek Hill, which kind of surprises me a little bit at 7.35. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this too. It's rare. There's a couple of quarterbacks you expect to be that elite. Josh Allen is right behind Patrick, and at least from a week 1 performance. Anthony Richardson actually leads the league right now, 11.2. But he only threw for 212 yards on 2 enormous plays. So there is a bit of luck there. Yep. Let me not put that too subtly.
That throw was ridiculous. That throw was ridiculous.
Kudos to Alec Pierce and doing his job. You got to give him a lot of credit there.
Yeah, that was quite the pass. I was impressed, and to almost fall down and to be able to throw that ball the way he did was impressive. But you look at Mahomes and you look at where he's been and what he's done this season, what he's done in his career, and I think that you have to be excited about what this season is going to bring. I mean, that's just one stat. I mean, you look at the rest of his stats, and I'll continue to track it all season long. But he's on pace for just under 5,000 yards if he plays all 17 games. Obviously, small sample size. I'm still taking the over. If he plays all 17 games, I think he'll hit 5,000 yards passing. So touchdowns are down. Obviously, he only had 1, but I'm pretty sure that he'll get back on track on that. Maybe not this week, but We'll see in the next couple of weeks. I don't think that's going to be an issue. I still think he throws 35 this season, if not more. But 10.4 yards per attempt, if he could do that an entire season, that would be an insane season. I don't think he's had over 8.5. I think is his total, is his highest. Oh, no, I'm wrong. 8.7, 8.8, I think, was in 2018 when he won the MVP. That's his highest that he's had in his career.
Well, like you said, one game. It will vary from here, but I like his odds to put up multiples against the Bengals. I know everybody's a little bit nervous about them, but the way that New England was able to move on them, I do feel that Patrick's going to get some. I'm going to say right now, before we get to our preview, and you can see our predictions, folks, coming up on Friday. I'm going to tell you, I think it's at least a 3-score game for Patrick Mahomes. That's how I feel about this right now. Tomorrow, we're going to have Matt Derrick in to give us his lowdown from inside the room, and we are going to talk to Lockdown Bengals, two of our favorite guys, coming up later in the week.
The interesting thing to me is I don't think 48 snaps total, it looks like, is what I'm seeing on offense. That is pretty low. So that explains a little bit of it when you start looking at this. But they were incredibly efficient. Their time of possession was only 26 minutes, but it's because they basically led most of the game. And it wasn't really that close until Baltimore got it closer later in the game. So this is a different type of game. If the Chiefs continue to have this type of explosive offense, it's going to be very hard for teams to be able to compete because they're just not going to be able to put up enough points. And the Chiefs are going to be able to score. Their first drive was, 5 plays, 70 yards in 5 plays in just 2 minutes or 3 minutes on game clock. I mean, they just went straight down the field on a defense that, at least historically, has been very good. We'll see whether or not they end up being very good this year, but at least historically has been very good. So this entire season could be a lot different than we would expect. And I'm looking at it right now. It looks like they're saying time of possession for 5 plays, 67 yards, 2 minutes and 19 seconds.
You got to be efficient. Now, that's against maybe one of the more elite defenses in this league. Certainly, if you're a fantasy guy and you have to pick a defense in your drafts, you were not very happy with Baltimore's performance, but it can only get better from here in terms of what they're going to face week in, week out, and how their offense stacks up to it. There is a lot to go, but on the offensive side of the ball, you have to feel like they're in a very, very good spot. And tomorrow we will definitely talk some defense as well because the defense deserves some credit. But make sure you like and sub and hit the bell here on YouTube right now. Get on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, get subscribed over there. Check out what Chris is doing on KC Chiefs Corner and my work over on NFL 33 and RGR Football, where we'll have a Q&A later on Monday night. Enjoy Monday Night Football. You got a feeling about your M&F prediction there, buddy?
Oh, you're going to find out a lot about the Jets tonight, and I'm not sure which way it's going to go, to be quite honest with you. That's the big question. They have a team that should be very good, but is Aaron Rodgers going to be, the Aaron Rodgers of old? I mean, he hasn't played a real game in basically 2 years now at this point. So, he started last year, played 4 or 5 snaps. So I don't really count that. Didn't play in the preseason, I believe. So the question is that whole team going to be put together? And it's all built for him. If he stays healthy, then I think the Jets can be good. But are they going to be able to be good immediately? Which we'll find out tonight, because they're going to face a very good San Francisco team. There are going to be some questions when it comes to Trent Williams and whether or not he's going to be able to go full and how well he'll play, considering he sat out for the entirety of the offseason, or the preseason, I guess. But that's a good team.
I have the Niners by 10. It's going to be a great game. I hope you guys enjoy it. Tomorrow, it's Matt Derrick joining us after being out at practice and maybe even seeing Hollywood Brown. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you.